back in 2012 for pleading guilty to reduce domestic abuse charges stemming from an attack on his former girlfriend while children watched, is also weighing in on Ray Rice. He said he believes that the NFL should have stayed with his original 2-game suspension and asked for his innocence or guilt when it comes to domestic violence. He says he was falsely accused. Here's a quote. "Like I've said in the past, no bumps, no bruises, no nothing. With OJ and Nicole, you've seen pictures. With Chris Brown and Rihanna, you've seen pictures. With Chad, Ochocinco, and Evelyn, you've seen pictures." You've seen the quote. You read it earlier. We're putting Floyd Mayweather on the hook. Skip Bayless, what do you make of what he's saying?
To me, Stephen A. and Carrie, this is quite obviously and painfully callous, cold-blooded, brazen, arrogant denial. But again, this kind of chilling behavior and reaction on Floyd's part is behavior that's consistent with a serial domestic abuser. And in a way, it actually helps you put a face on an abuser. This is how they often respond over time. He's a 3-time loser in courts of law. And yet, does that mean I'm going to boycott Floyd's fight on Saturday night? Nope, I'm going to watch, because I've been able to sort of force myself over the years, having known a lot of entertainers and a lot of athletes, to separate the athlete entertainer from the flawed human, because many, if not most of them, are deeply flawed. In Floyd's case, this is, to me, his deepest flaw. Stephen A. knows him very well. Stephen A. likes this man. I respect that. We both love to watch him box. We will watch him on Saturday night. But this is reprehensible but predictable reaction to me from Floyd Mayweather Jr.
I wish I could say it was predictable. It wasn't predictable. I think that considering the fact that he had to do time after pleading no contest to the domestic violence charge and what have you, I think, and serving about 60 to 90 days in jail, you would think that he would be wise enough to avoid saying such a thing, recognizing that it would come across as inflammatory and incendiary, and he didn't do that. And it makes no sense whatsoever. And again, the Floyd Mayweather I know, you put your hands on one of his daughters, you're going to have a problem. There's no question about it. And so, you know, when you consider that and you consider what he's gone through in the past, although he vehemently expresses his own innocence despite the pleas, you know, him serving time and what have you, he's always said that he's been innocent of the charges that have been leveled against him. In the end, nobody's trying to hear that. You did time. You did time for domestic violence. That's the bottom line. And so knowing that, why do anything to bring attention to yourself on this particular issue at this moment in time? It's unwise, it's ill-advised, it's insensitive, it's wrong. And again, I love Floyd Mayweather, the fighter. I think he's the best on the planet. As a person, I know a lot of his demons. I've been put in a situation where I'm one of the few people he has confided in, and I'll never reveal some of the demons he's expressed to me because that's for him to reveal. That's his personal business, unless he gave me permission to do so. But I will tell you that even with all of that being said, all that means to me is that he should have an even more heightened level of sensitivity, and he clearly did not in this particular situation. I'm disappointed. I'm upset at him, and he knows me well enough to know that when I see him, I'm going to say something to him about it, because it's just not even called for him to take this kind of position and express those kind of sentiments, particularly at this time.
All right.
So, Kerry Champion.
Yes, so.
Sum this up for us. Your reaction initially to these quotes, and can you move past them to the point that you could again watch this man do what he does best, which is box?
Well, my initial reaction, Stephen A. says he was maybe surprised, a little caught off guard. I was not. Floyd Mayweather has a very long documented history of being disrespectful to women. It's not a surprise. Again, I said he gets a pass because he's such a skilled fighter, and people do appreciate who he is in the ring, and people appreciate greatness. We talked about it. Sure. You just said you can separate the two. Unfortunately, it becomes extremely difficult to separate the two when you know so much about the personal. It's hard to separate the personal and the professional. I stick to trying not to let my personal business sway into my professional business because you can't separate them. As far as watching him, yeah, of course, I'll watch him. And, you know, maybe it's hypocritical. Maybe it's not right, but it is what we do. And we can't say we won't watch. For me to sit here and say I'm not going to watch another Floyd Mayweather fight is not honest. But I will say I don't respect him as a human being. I think the way that he dismisses women and the way he's completely disrespectful toward women and think that it's okay, it just isn't okay. For him to be so blatantly arrogant and mention a dead woman's name as if it was no big deal.
Yeah.
This woman is dead. She has a family. Are you kidding me? So no, that's how I feel about him. But yeah, sadly, I have to separate the two and watch.
And you did make a great point earlier in the show that because Floyd does not play in a team sport,
No.
he cannot be disciplined or punished by his league because there is no league.
There is no league, and quite frankly, this arrogance and this is a part of his attraction. This is why people do enjoy watching him. This is why people do want to see him fight. Stephen A. made that point earlier. You know, it's the glitz and the glam. Go ahead.
Well, that's a big point right there, because remember, years ago when Floyd was winning fights and he was undefeated, but didn't make nearly as much noise. He wasn't blowing, he wasn't setting pay-per-view records. Let's keep that in mind as well. It's one thing for you to be the way that you are. It's another thing for you to be rewarded for it, because the sport literally encourages some of this stuff because that's how they make money. So as wrong as Floyd Mayweather may appear in this, and there's no question that in this particular instance he is wrong, let's also keep in mind, whether it's the Adrian Broners of the world or various other individuals with their bravado or what have you, the mild-mannered dudes that just go about the business of doing their job and being elite don't sell nearly as much. Andre Ward may be number 2 on the list of pound-for-pound fighters in the world. This dude is on another level, okay? Let me tell you something right now. You don't hear much about Andre Ward. He's doing great work as a boxing analyst with HBO. He's a champion. He's got his issues in court with Lou DiBella and those boys. I think Goose, and I don't remember which one it is, but I'm just simply saying that he's a model citizen, family man, upstanding guy, polished, incredibly celebratory in terms of who we want, who we would root for, etc. You don't hear much about him. But when you're loud, brash, and you can back it up, particularly in a sport of boxing where there's no union, there's no fighter representation, there's no fighter union or anything like that to protect these guys, you've got power brokers who are encouraging them to be the way that they are because it sells. So is the problem at its core really with those individuals, on the individuals overseeing the sport and them, whether it be the promoters or whoever else, or Joe Public, who buys the tickets?
I started the show, I said domestic violence is uncomfortable. This is one of these uncomfortable conversations, the sad reality of who this man is and the fact that we'll still watch him, but we know, as you said, he's the face of an abuser. We'll have more First Take after the break.